Julia with Sirius tell us moon, soul, and sun is 30 degrees Pisces. Sun is slowly approaching Fomalhaut. While Mars is on the Nevalgiri, and I was waiting for Mars to be on the Nevalgiri, which I hope to capture in a talisman later today. It will be, yeah. Gonna need to see how am I gonna do that. So while I'm checking with you until the ascendant moves to be Mars ruled, I want to give you an energy reading because something has been um, and it may resonate to more people. It may not. It may be just personal thing, and I think it's an energy reading, and it may be not. Okay, so like, but I'm gonna say like that. Somebody, um, somebody that could have been male, could have been female, and could have been hermaphrodite. Um, and this is specifically to the Aries projects, okay? Because this has to do with the human experiments. Um, so those of you who are not aware, there are human experiments that are done without my consent on me, um, and they always have various things. So um, let's say it's not the most ethical, and through that I got to meet certain energies or certain figures in places where the world doesn't meet them. And what I'm getting is, and I'm going to say it as energy reading, somebody's sense of self was dependent on such individual. Either they were like targeted individual, or that they were part of this project by lineage, um, and somebody's sense of self depends on someone. Now, the way it occurs is probably, now here's the thing, the reason I know that how it probably occurs is because they try to feel that, to make that someone feel the way they feel. Either they try to do that, or that was a part of the kind of Mengele twins MK often experiment, because they did experiment in twins and they juxtaposed people that are either, it's not that they are twins at birth, it's that there is something twinning about them. Okay, it could be a Gemini placement. I have Chiron in Gemini with Rahu, and it pertains, and the ruler is the ruler of the seventh house. So I see it as being juxtaposed to people where they make like Mengele twins experiments. um, and it what was created was that the sense of self is dependent on the other, and in that way they became really dependent on that target individual for their sense of self. Now this is why they begin to feel a certain way, certain amiable way, and here it could be siblingesque because it's a Mengele twins. Now, it doesn't mean that it evoke only siblingesque feelings, but mind you, in those society, um, but what happened is that they did something to try to make, or either they or it was a part of the experiments that the other person would feel the same, and they wouldn't know about that. And then what happened is that when the when that other person connects with their sense of self, they're they're next to that next to they're next to that to that for lack of better terms I call it twin, because they were twined They were twinned together in that, with Mengele twins experiments done on them on an MK often level. And so that person tries to really be controlling and um, and that's something that the other twin is not consenting with. Um, like I said, the issue of secure attachment and so on and so forth, and the fact that many people are undergoing uncalled for human experiments where they meet other people that are undergoing human experiments. And some of them are simply civilians, and some of them are coming from cloning lineages. Um, and that can create juxtapositions where, for example, somebody was revealed to somebody's true genders. And now it is also the thing with those experiments that the response, let's say I say something, it's not translated as I say it, which creates further communication issues. Or somebody could be wanting to say something to me and I would be feeling that as harassment. Um, and yeah, like yesterday I hear somebody says, well, this is what you wanted them to have wombs. And I'm like, I never said that. I mean, it can be cool, but I never said that. And then there are people who were going through androgynous experiments and they genuinely have wombs. So, although they might not look the part, and it's not like somebody is transgender or went through gender affirming care, it's that sometimes that was forced, or that they were born um, as hermaphrodite because of these cloning projects. So, um, uh, so this is pretty much the issue, that somebody's sense of self, or they were only feeling themselves juxtaposed to someone they were twinned with. And that's the thing, because there are so many experiments, one doesn't know. But then they felt like that their sense of self depends on another, which can be very overwhelming. And then they try to control that other, which is exactly not what works. Um, and all of these people could have been in completely, various situations in their life. They could be single, they could be married, they could be traveling and wearing a ring so that they wouldn't be bothered. They could be married but taking off that ring because they don't believe in ownership. Like they could, just so many things that can be occurring. And those interactions, they can be sibling-esque, they can be romantic, they can be experiments with sexuality of people. Um, and within this really weird conditions, is people beginning to understand that they are a part of a certain uncalled for human experiment. Um, and in those things have both pros and cons, but it's already became something that is a part of their life and even sense of self. Like I said, those are the implications of the cloning project. and the Supermensch, Ubermensch project. Um, and yeah, this is this is also something that happens. Um, so, and because of the confusion around the translation or the confusion, the by design confusion of the languages, it makes it makes the communication challenging. Um, and the fact that that there is this topic of human experiments that as a collective need to be resolved. For some people, they may have experienced that as what they thought was third party but was actually human experiments campaign. Um, and then they were trying to decipher that as in, well, if there's something so important between them, then I'll be letting go. And it's like, wait a second, there's an MK Ultra, MK Often thing. Like, you're dealing with one thing, but we're dealing with some trafficking agendas. And then one needs to be tending to their inner child, and um, and one is a father, and one is a father, and those experiments are meant to the people are meant. Now here's the thing: astrologically speaking, I would probably see it around Uranus, which is experiment, around Aries. Chiron is with Aries, so it's around people's chirons, and and that's and here's the thing. Of course, those juxtapositions have potential to curate something about the Chiron wound around identity, but not when that's human trafficking and stuff. Um, and yet, some of those people have been involved with that. Um, there were even, I think, human experiences that were exposing the fact that there's no such thing as sex work, that it's all trafficked people. Um, and it's by the design that somebody tries to traffic people, and they can't call for help, so they begin to say all the rapists are slaughtered, all MK Often is slaughtered, all of this, and besiege the offices of MK Often and MK Ultra, besiege the office, and they begin to have all these calls to action, and so people are exposed, and then the people that were arranging smear campaigns around them are like, wait a second, this person is talking about the Epstein list. So, and the issue is not the smear campaign, it's the issue that that was a part of targeting and bullying them. Because it's not about, oh, people think that, the people think that. I'm like, okay, the people who know me, the people who don't, and whatever, I can't control how I'm being perceived. Um, but then the targeted individuals, they were trying to deprive people of resources by framing them. I think. I mean, and to traffic people and so on and so forth. It was an economic and hitmanship project. Um, and it juxtaposed people from really different classes, let's say, different lineages, um, and sometimes feeling that the sense of self is, and also maybe people have been it can bring certain people, astrologically speaking, certain people can bring, let's say, childhood memories. Right now, many people may experience that because Jupiter is in Cancer. And when there's a planet going through Cancer, many people will have their upbringing memories come up. Um, but it may be associated with the people that bring in the fifth. So it can be the people that have Jupiter in Cancer, Ascendant in Cancer, Sun in Cancer, Moon in Cancer, and other personal planets. With, if it's relation, it can be Venus in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, Mars in Cancer. It can be perhaps. Yeah, I'm astrologically delineating human experiments. Contribution to the scientific endeavor. Um, and and astrology is a way to basically cope. um, and it exposes all of those projects, because if astrologers are targeted, it's kind of like, hey, is my colleague targeted, or are they an MK often practitioner? And if they are they MK often practitioners as a part of the trafficking agenda, or they're trying to abort the trafficking agenda? Um, and um, and then people were doing things to people that are beyond horrific. And that's another thing, because I'm getting that person who felt that their sense of self was dependent on someone, they may have been participating in horrific things against that someone. Um, and then there can be, it could be something that they were subjected. Maybe there were communities that were treating women a certain way, or they simply thought, or that person was framed and they thought that, and whatever they projected on that person, they have to face the reality of who that person actually is. Wait, אני לא יכולתי לאכול אתמול בגלל הדברים האלה. Okay, I don't know, I don't know. אוקיי. אני לא יודעת. אני לא יכולתי לאכול פשוט, זה לא היה בגלל שזה, לא יכולתי לטעום. Um, so now, or that person could be judging the person, because they can't admit that they are the offender, that they were the offender, and they have to project it as if the victim is to blame, but it's still going with this. Um, or that they were judging a person for something that they also have in themselves, and they found it difficult to deal with that. It could be even vulnerability and empathy. Um, okay, whatever it is, the reason that they're like, it's something to do with why they were twinned. Um, yes, it can be many things. In the secret societies, when they rape the boys, they call the boys a whore, and so they could have, I'm sorry, participated in MK often rape of that targeted individual, um, and that was their outlet of calling someone, when they have to acknowledge the fact that they were perpetrator, when if they participated in that, they did that. And there is a gender thing in the background that there are also experiments in. Um, In any case, it's like somebody's sense of self depends on someone that they judge and they bully. Um, or that they express themselves in a way that is bullying. Okay, now here is the thing: those societies that were built upon um, bullying, basically, and even worse things, um, there is implication to those societies. There's implication to that, whether it's by persecution, whether it's by people forming connections and not really being able, um, or by people having their suddenly their sense of self depends on someone, um, and the entire situation caused them to judge themselves and judge others. Um, because here's the thing: if when somebody understand and they say, "Okay, I did that and I was wrong to do that," not by being, and it's not about coercing people to admit or things they didn't do, not at all. If somebody actually participated in something and they're like, okay, I did that, and I understand that that's not, and but if they think that it's the correct way or that this is a part of their society or whatnot, then that issue that needs to be tended to. Um, because now there's a situation where somebody's, I'm getting the word life, somebody's inner life is very enmeshed and mixed with somebody's inner life, um, and in a way that not they might not be aware of that. Um, now, for some people, it means that they need to track back to the experiences that they had. Um, and the little tip that I can give for communities or people in those situations is that those experiments were between really all walks of life. Okay? Like, expect the unexpected, is what I'm saying. Okay? Like I said, Saturn, Neptune, the veil is thinning, and it's thinning between communities. There are communities that were ritually abusing one another as communities. And as you can see, that's my definition of that from the outside. And then there are then there are people that um, were reserved within communities or never really felt belonging or felt like they're and there are really all walks of life. Okay, so people might not be predicting um, wait. And the thinning of the veil with Saturn and Neptune, we may have developed really emotional connections really across something that could never have been met otherwise. Um, Not for all people. And when I say emotional connections, I don't define the nature of those connections. Like I said, it can be somebody was targeted to trafficking because they didn't have a present father for whichever circumstances. It could be that the father was a career person and so on and so forth. Then they're juxtaposed to a father that may have even raped them. Um, those of you that have had experiments done on your erotic centers, um, I want you to know that those, first of all, knowing what some of the things, some people would take psychedelics from far, and with computer interface, they are hacking to nervous system. So that we would be targeting different segments of the nervous system, and the person, it can be the sense of self or the seat of consciousness. Um, it can be libidinal centers. It can be now some of those things could be cleansing and clearing, and some of those things could be used as bait um, and I want you to know that and to be aware of that because if you aren't, you might be judging yourself and being really confused with experiments, with things that are with experiences that are actually experiments. Um, some of us may have been juxtaposed to the experiments of another, and some of us may have considered that that was a destiny swap, and sometimes it wasn't, sometimes it wasn't. Um, and we have to bring the word experiments on unknowing and unconsenting humans to the forefront. I remember when Bill Clinton faced that, and um, very difficult because he was in Epstein Island, which means that he was molesting children, um, and structurally speaking, it couldn't have been otherwise. But now the structure is changing as well, and when he apologized for MK Ultra and MK Ultra, he said some of these experiments are terrible and horrific. Um, and it was obvious to me that he went through those experiments. It was, people that went through experiments that unconsenting, and those are unconsenting individuals as civilians that went through. We can almost identify. I'm not saying all cases, but I can look at Bill Clinton's face there and say, I know that he went through those experiments. That's why I say some of them were good and some of them were not. um, um, and so I have to admit that my experience has been beyond terrifying, and at the same time, I met people that I didn't expect to meet. Um, And there were people that were experiencing beyond terrifying experiences as well. Um, and this channel has been expressing things that usually are not talked about. Um, so, mhm. And the fact that the framework of human experiments is so much so that people cannot work um, and don't have safe housing. Um, so, and because it is intergenerational, then perhaps many of us have genuinely been in a position where we needed to heal our inner child, which would be a position that, and I think Teal Swan addressed that, not all people can. Gen Zers talk about it as adulting, because if there were experiments done on people, they need they need to recover. They can't. Recovery is not just to find a job or to find. They need settings that are actually safe for them to be. And it's scary because the trauma was around care. And somebody profited off of downright cloning babies. A lot about what we hate about the elite is exactly because of that. And yet we can't ignore the terrifying things. Okay, ritual abuse is beyond terrifying. Um, whether it's done by MK often or now, because the sense of self has been affected, so somebody could have been raping somebody through another person, even in the astral. Um, and when I can say because I was raped through MK often, and and basically at the time my consciousness dissociated, so I became like non-existent, and I don't know if somebody was taking my consciousness to rape somebody or to torture somebody through MK often, and that person would be seeing me, and or if somebody watched my content and was targeted because of that, or and we were being isolated in that way from ourselves. Some of those experiments were designed to um, create dissociative identity disorder, um, but a lot of these people are in a personality code, so we see what seems like functioning human beings, and one could notice that their energy is taken over by another energy through channeling, and that being somewhat non-volitional. And then it's kind of like our sense of self is that some guy that's some guy in the bush, some guy in the bush. uh, or some guy that raped us. Um, and they're dependent on their sense of self in our sense of self now. So for me, there were multiple attempts to kidnap me using MK often and nervous system hacking. Um, Experiencing trauma, of even other people. Um, as a part of my research, I did tend to do body mind questioning the medicines, and there was use of hospitals against me. Um, there were attempts to, and once that happened, a person would try to escape. There was twice I had to escape of housing. Um, they tortured a friend, and whether he agreed or not agreed to participate, he harmed me in a way that I had to escape for my life. And and then I didn't know where to go to. Um, there were I was tortured in front of my mom when my mom didn't know I was tortured, severely tortured during COVID. Um, Attempts to kidnap me, and uh, they wanted me to call somebody that I didn't call, so that she would be. And this was a woman that worked in pharmaceutical industry. I'll give you her profile actually because she's an astrologer. Don't remember. She was in the astrology podcast. Um, Somehow they wanted her to come with me to the Nova, but we were not. And she probably is sex trafficking because I know that she was talking about being working as a stripper, which means she was sex trafficked. And um, there are people involved in academia, and those people are very likely. I saw that it was trauma response. So the onset of creating them, even if they were a conscious perpetrator, the onset would have been the true like settings. And I'm saying the true like. I'm not saying the true, but the true like. Um, and Venus hour now. Venus in the 12th house, so but the ascendant. Okay, let's do talisman. It is Venus hour though, so it's not Mars hour. And the moon. No, Venus is the ruler of the moon, and the hour is in the 12th house, so it's not a talismanic yet. But I will use my sense of self. Will. Um, there was an attempt to make me agree to some sort of M-like initiation, which I never consented to. Um, but I didn't even know what it was, and so many of the people targeted don't even know what it is. For me, I was doing a channeling experiment because I was trying to heal. I was trying to see what's happening and why. Um, and